All right, I'm going to share something with you that we might consider part of just general education about love and loving. And I've hinted in at least one of these videos and scores of times on my other videos and writings that learning how things really work, what the reality of things, the actual truth of how things take place, mechanics of being, if you like, or the mechanics of the universe, can be very helpful because it can show you what you need to do that you're not doing and what you've been doing that you shouldn't do. It can help you understand so much more how to get a better result. And so it is with love. Love is one of those things where everybody thinks they know something. And in fact, most people think they know everything, whereas the truth is most people know almost nothing about it. It's one of those things. But listen, I want to share with you some very important major truths about love and loving. The most important revelation I've got for you is that love is not really permanent or true. Love is not eternal and lasting. There's something wrong with that kind of love. Let's switch from love for the moment to truth. Truth itself, as Buddhism teaches, Zen Buddhism anyway particularly, but there are other sort of Greek philosophers and sciences that make it aware that truth as truth itself is very evanescent, very impermanent. It will very quickly evaporate. We experience this waking from a dream. Have you had that feeling? You wake up, you've had a very vivid dream, and as you look at it, it kind of, and vanishes. That's the truest kind of truth. We call that the deep is, or deeper is of truth. A deeper reality that what we call the simple is, which is what you see, is not necessarily what's true. We're interested in what's beneath that, and that's the big difference, for example, between supernoetics and a host of other New Agey ideas and psychologies and religious type thinking, spiritual. There's lots of spiritual claptrap out there that doesn't actually stand up to scrutiny. But anyway, trust me, that truth, the real truth, is something that doesn't last. So if it sticks around, it's because it's not true. It's had a little twist or an alteration, a little untruth implanted in it, and therefore it's very difficult to get rid of. And that's what we meet in our punk psychology. We look for thoughts, behaviors, emotional packages and things where a person is doing something that's not good for them and it's not good for others. It's always based on some kind of untruth. And if you get the real truth, it will just vanish. This deeper is, the person just simply doesn't have the problem anymore. Now, the same is true with love. That love that sticks around and is cloggy and cloying usually has an element of untruth in it. There's something wrong. There's something, that's not right about it, which is why it appears to stick around. But if it were the truest truth and the most loving love, it would have this same degree of impermanence. Now, that's not a problem. It means you need to go on creating it for as long as you want it. And if you stop creating it, then it will simply vanish. Like the dream. When you stop creating your dream, you wake up, you don't need it anymore. And as you look at it, it literally slips through your fingers. You can't even remember what it was. So here's a really cruel hoax about love. The idea that you don't need to do anything, it's there, it's immortal, it's eternal, it'll last forever. Oh my goodness, how wonderful, is actually about as wrong as you can get. It's the complete opposite of what the real truth of the situation is. Now, other people have been onto this. I'm not unique, but there's some clever understandings here I'm going to share with you. But let me just read you for a minute the words of Jim Rohn. Now, you probably, the late Jim Rohn, he was a very famous self-growth person, really terrific and very popular. And he said, "Your family and your love must be cultivated like a garden. Time, effort, and imagination must be summoned constantly to keep any relationship flourishing and growing." And now I concur with those words exactly. And think of gardening. Any gardener will know if you neglect your patch, then weeds start to come through. And if you neglect your patch for any length of time, then you'll find that gradually it's overrun by weeds, and the flower and the beauty of it will, flowers and beauty of it will disappear. And that's very much what happens to some love affairs, I'm afraid. People simply stop creating it. Now, if you don't create afresh, it becomes that burden of all love things, which means it's taken for granted. You cannot take love, you cannot take a person or a relationship for granted. It needs to be created anew every day, almost every moment, but certainly every waking day. Now, I don't mean you have to take your wife off to the opera every afternoon, or you have to shower with bunches of flowers. Yes, these are positive or creative things, but it can be very simple, very tiny things, just the way you look at the person. And you just, for a moment, make it clear you've just remembered again how special they are to you. Or you touch them in a certain way, and we know you touch the person's face in a way that no one else would do. So they know that that's their special signature or gesture. If you want to give them some flowers, I got this tip, by the way, from John Gray, the guy that wrote Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. And this has been studied apparently, but he pointed out if you take a woman a bunch of flowers, that's one gift. If you take one flower a day, every day for a week, that's 7 gifts. So go figure, guys, maybe just buy a single roses now and again. You don't need to buy a whole bunch to make your point. And I think that's right. I think Gray was correct. I don't know where he got his research from. But that's my experience, that a person will warm to any gift or any gesture that says or states or implies love. I know a nice real-life example of that. We all know Judi Dench, the actress, now Dame Judi Dench. She's a national treasure, indeed almost a world treasure now. We love her a lot, but she was married to a man called Michael Williams, and they lived happily together for many years. Michael's no longer with us, but whenever he was, all the time he was alive, every week, wherever he was in the world and wherever Judy was in the world, he would send her a single rose gift. He took the trouble to arrange a delivery, a little package with a single rose in it. He didn't even need to put a note saying, I love you, as if she didn't know what it was about. Duh, it's just the gesture itself. But that's what I mean by continuous creation. You don't even have to be as flowery as that and have a wrapped gift. Come on, I mean, these are celebrities, these are public figures. They're given to drama and overstaging things slightly. That's what they do for a career. For us, it could be as simple as, make the breakfast and take it to her in bed, or vice versa. So, continuing to create this thing is really of vital importance to us all. Otherwise, it will go into this sort of rather decayed state of being taken for granted. Now, if you've ever got into that situation with a love affair in the past, now you at least understand some of what was wrong with that. You weren't refreshing and renewing it all the time, and it's very important, trust me. Now, you're probably going to say, and a lot of people have responded this way, I know lots of couples, they've been married 30 or 40 years and it's just as fresh and bright as it is now. All this thing about creating it all, that's all baloney. They have this wonderful love affair that just lasts and lasts. Yes, but my challenge to you and people who respond in this way is to go look at these loving relationships objectively and carefully. And what you will see for sure is that this little process of the little kind of creations and the little affirmations of I love you and we love each other and how wonderful we are together, these little processes are actually inherent in everything that they do. They are continuously creating their love affair, and that's what you're seeing. And it's the vibrancy and freshness and energy of love that makes it so magical. If you've been near a couple like this or, been with them, hope you might be one. I've had this experience many times with different gals that I've been with. But when it's very vibrant and exciting in love, people respond to that. You know, I've had waiters and waitresses, I should say, serving girls for Americans, come up to the table and say, "Oh, you two look just so wonderful together. I feel so happy just to look at you and just to watch. It's really great." If you've not had that experience, then you might have been missing something in your life. Because I think it is important, and it is true that it communicates outwards. I'd like to share a little secret from the rather magical book called The Secret Life of Plants. It's Christopher Bird and Richard Tompkins. I think I've got the second author correct. Anyway, definitely got The Secret Life of Plants right. That's the title of the book. And there's a little story in there of a man called Pierre-Paul Sauvin. And I've forgotten which part of the USA he was, but, he was an academic and had a laboratory and was able to hitch up plants, like the work of Cleve Baxter, where he connected plants to a lie detector and showed that plants, in fact, react to things that human beings are doing. Sauvin got on to more or less the same kick, but his study was very interesting. He had plants in the laboratory connected to machines and it being recorded continuously, even when he wasn't there. And what he found was so amazing, which was that when he was with his girlfriend down in the forest, 80 miles away in the cabin in the woods, when they made love and came to orgasm, all the plants in the laboratory went wee, the needles were jumping up and down on the dials. The plants could feel it from 80 miles away. Now, people like to say with hushed awe, "Oh, what does this tell us about plants? Aren't plants amazing?" Yes, but also I have this to say, which is, think about it for a minute. It also means, aren't we amazing that our thoughts and emotions and our sexual waves, crescendo and orgasm, can influence other life forms 80 miles away? It means we have a shell of influence at least 160 miles across, if you think about it. 80 miles that way and 80 miles that way. I suppose 80 miles up and 80 miles down, if it comes to that. That really says awesome things about us. And it says that we have to take care. We are emanating all kinds of forces into the world outside, and it's very important we husband and shepherd these carefully. We have a trust, a kind of almost sacred trust, if you like, things that we should be doing to look after this. So what do we have to do? Well, we have to behave more responsibly, and we can change what we do. That's your responsibility, to change what you do. Trying to change your partner is a fool's game. Quite honestly, if you change yourself, your partner will change. If you try and change your partner, it will never happen. You will dig in, you get into conflict, the person's going to resist, because there's a certain amount of judgmentalism in trying to change other people. And there's also a certain amount of righteousness. Why do I have to change? I'm not doing anything wrong. If it bothers you, you go fix yourself, Well, you have to fix yourself in the end, but you can change the relationship dynamically if you wish. But I've got to be honest, obviously sometimes we get into a situation where only one person cares, only one person is trying, and the other one is kind of out of it. They're no longer committed to the relationship. I would say this, first of all, don't give up, because you can change the dynamics with this other person, and you can change how the other person thinks and feels and reacts by changing how you think, feel and react. And this is one of the important messages that we've got from supernoetics and punk psychology. You don't need to change others. Change yourself and you will change others. But obviously, there may come times when a relationship just isn't working, you may be working properly, and you may be thinking about leaving. Well, just remember this, which is that, leaving doesn't solve anything. Divorce, a friend of mine said, divorce solves nothing. It doesn't. Whatever was wrong, you take it to the next relationship and you're going to bump into it again. Because remember, what's wrong from your point of view is you. You have certain things you put out there and then clash with them and then blame somebody else. That's what we do. Come on, be honest. We do this all the time about everything in life, not just love and romance and sex. But it's true. You put it out there, clash with it, and then blame somebody else. So the next relationship, what's going to happen? You put it out there, clash with it, and then blame the other person. So nothing is really changed. The only way to improve things is to change yourself from within, and that's what supernoetics transformational piloting and processes are. And that's why I'm trying to give you some key help here with your history of loving It can be changed from within you. I have a saying you should know, which is that we're all walking around with our past relationships within us right now. And it's no good pretending that you've walked away and I'm not with him anymore. Yes, you are. He's in your head, she's in your head, and you're not going to get away from that person anytime soon unless you do your proper homework and divest yourself of all the untruths and lies and garbage that you've accumulated around this relationship. Remember, it's one of my important teaching, and it's from supernoetics and punk psychology. There are three people in a relationship. There's the man. Well, I'm going to stick with the heteros for the moment. It's just for the argument. Okay, there's the man, there's the woman, but there's a third person, which is the composite of the two. And if you don't handle the sort of, let's call this the mutual case. So it's her case, his case, and the mutual case. And if you don't handle the mutual case, nothing's ever going to improve. You've got to dismantle all the conflicts that arise between you. Otherwise, it's going nowhere. And as I said, just leaving, just walking out, it solves nothing at all. It's for suckers. Okay, so moving on, let's look at something a little bit more exciting. I want you to ask yourself or challenge yourself with the question, how do you know that you are loved? Now, I'm not asking what turns you on. I'm asking you, how do you know you're loved? Like if how do you know you're happy? I'm happy. How do you know? Well, I have this nice, warm, fluffy feeling and comfortable and so on. You know that you're happy because certain things happen. How do you know that you are loved? You are truly loved. What has to happen for you to realize that you're loved? And now this is a very important exercise, and one that almost nobody's teaching and certainly almost nobody is doing, but it's very crucial. As part of this, I want you to take out your journal or your notebook and write down. You might have to figure this out for a while. It might leap into your head, but whatever it is and however long it takes, figure out what it is that has to happen for you to know that you're loved. Now, we all have different sensory modalities, meaning that some of us respond to visual cues, some respond to auditory cues, and others respond to what we call kinesthetics, or the touchy-feelies. Now, obviously, a lot of women respond to the kinesthetics. They like the touchy-feelies. They want to be hugged and they want to be kissed and treated in a certain way, but it's not a universal. And in any case, I'm not asking you to go out and judge other people. I'm asking you to just figure out for yourself. Is it being looked at in a certain way? Is it a person making a certain gesture? I mean, that a person can look at you in such a way that you just kind of melt. That means that, you're responding to visual signals, visual clues. But are those the most important for you? Maybe the most important thing is what you hear. You want to hear someone say, I love you. Oh, God, you're sexy. Or I think you're the most wonderful human being, humanitarian I've ever met. It may be music. Some people respond to love songs. You know how when you sometimes listen to songs on the radio, they seem to be singing about you and your partner and your relationship. It's true, we know it, and it applies to a lot of us. But then there are the kinesthetics, okay? Are you that kind of person, being touched in a certain way or a certain place? And I don't mean if you're a woman being touched on the breasts or on the genitals. It can be a hand on the shoulder, an arm around, or just being embraced in a certain gentle and tender, maybe a firm way. Some women like firmness in a man, not vicious wrestling, but firm, to show what we call puissance. Puissance is a French word for strength and courage. And a woman sometimes likes to be enfolded in that way. Listen, I don't care what it is. There's no good and bad. There's no right and wrong. There's just you. And you have to figure out what means the most to you. And then comes the magic, which is that you leap into bed with your other, or you can strip off and get in the jacuzzi, but just be available, as it were, for kind of touch. Like if it really works, you're going to want to get laid as fast as possible after this happens. Trust me. So you need to be ready. You don't do this on a bus or in a coffee shop or in the back office. You do it at home when you're in your nightdress or your lingerie. on the bed or near the bed, or you do it, like I said, in the bath or in the jacuzzi or the pool, where if the person touches that very special chord, you can respond instantly. You can go all gaga and melty and be in the person's arms and have them make love to you in the most exciting and passionate way. Now, as I said, it's not the same as what turns you on. But you'll understand that you will soften and melt and go all gentle when the person does this for you. If it doesn't happen, I would question whether you've really got the right cues, I should say. That, you maybe got the wrong cue and you're looking for something visual, really, rather than kinesthetic or auditory and so on. Because my experience, and I've done this with people, I've watched women melt into just puddles, doing this way, but also big hunky guys who just get it, when a woman does it for them. This is one of the great coachings in life when you become a coach for the healing of lifetime of love. This is one of the things I teach you and expect you to be able to do, is have a person find their own representations of loving, and then go out and do it and enjoy the results. Now, as I said, it's not the same as what turns you on list, but you can do that list as well. Hey, why not? Maybe your lover doesn't know. Remember, I keep coming back to this point over and over. How's your lover supposed to know what you think and what you like and how you feel if you don't tell them? So it could be very, very important to the sexuality of your romantic relationship that you actually very carefully document and tell them what it is that most turns you on. And if they get the right triggers and the right buttons, and it's not the obvious thing. A man will often just grab a breast thinking that's going to make the woman aroused. I can tell you, tickling her ears can be very good, or stroking the tip of the shoulder. In fact, listen, women have erogenous zones all over. You know what erogenous zones are? They're parts of the body which, when touched, create arousal and passion. And they're not the obvious ones. The sexual ones are, the genitals, the anus, and the breasts and nipples and so on. But really, women get turned on by all sorts of these things. The inside of the knees and thighs, for example. You don't have to run up to the crotch. And in fact, you can tease quite a lot by stopping short. But the inside of the thighs can be a terrific erogenous zone. So can the hips or the buttocks just above the buttock cleft. You don't have to stick your hand on their bum to make a gesture. It's like a loving touch, really. And it's like creating a musical, like a musical instrument. You play it and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Here comes the song. You learn to play this instrument, which is your woman. And vice versa. Of course, guys want to know. Now, the trouble with men is they only have one erogenous zone, and that's the penis. You've got to touch that and fondle their balls to get a reaction. That's what people seem to think anyway. But I would encourage you as guys to explore and allow yourself to be approached in different ways and see if some of that works for you too. Maybe not, maybe you girls have to face there's only a few simple things like stroking and touching the genitals or oral sex that actually works for guys. But if you're smart, you'll make sure they know you've got about 12 different buttons all over your body, which if they press them will get you aroused. But if you do it right, it's really, it is fantastic. I often think, I don't know if you remember the movie A Fish Called Wanda, but there's a sequence where Jamie Lee Curtis is on the sofa and John Cleese is upstairs and he's speaking to her while he undresses. He's speaking in some, well, I always thought it was Russian. Somebody wrote to me and said, no, it's not Russian. I can't remember what they said it was. To me, it sounded Russian. I don't speak Russian, so excuse the ignorance. But he's speaking with her in this accent, and she's absolutely destroyed. She's ravening and, always starting to chew up the sofa because she's so sexually aroused. He's completely unaware of the devastating effect he's having on her. But Jamie Lee Curtis portrays it really wonderfully well. She looks, as I say, just completely melted and destroyed, almost pulled to bits by this guy's sexy accent as she hears it. And she's juicy, I suppose, would be the politest way of putting it, instantly ready for sex anyway. So three things for you there. First of all, the importance of continuous creation of that loving feeling and the belief and trust in sex. You have to create it, you have to believe in it and create it, and do not allow it to go on the back burner and become taken for granted. We all know that's the kiss of death. You then also need to work out your representations of love. How do I know I'm loved? What has to happen that I know this person is telling me I'm loved? And then thirdly, worth the trouble, work out what turns you on and make sure your partner's given the list and check them out on it twice a week. Make sure they learn every single one by heart and practice doing it in the jacuzzi, on the bed, on the carpet, in front of the fire, on the sofa. Good luck with that and have fun. Take care.